Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Marcia Finlayson, and I am Vice Dean, Health Sciences, and Director of the school. Although we are attending this event from all parts of Canada tonight, our time at Queen's means that each of us has had the privilege to have lived, learned, and played on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. Canada's first National Day of Truth and Reconciliation a few weeks ago, and the remembrance ceremonies that occurred that day, remind us that our privilege is not neutral. It comes with a responsibility to learn and unlearn, and to be intentional and authentic in our work to understand and reconcile relationships with Indigenous communities. As members of the Queen's rehabilitation community, I invite all of you to join the school, the faculty, and the university as a whole in this important and meaningful work. With this introduction, please accept my warm welcome to this event on behalf of the entire school, faculty, staff, and current students. As most of you know, when the School of Rehabilitation Therapy opened in 1967, it opened to 25 diploma students across both occupational therapy and physical therapy. This fall, we welcomed nearly 400 students across a total of 8 programs, including our foundational programs of occupational therapy and physical therapy, our original research programs in rehabilitation science, and our newest programs in aging and health, and in rehabilitation and health leadership. These new programs are offered in a blended format, partially online and partially on campus. With this year's enrollment numbers, we are 16 times larger than we were 54 years ago. Our programs are delivered by 24 permanent faculty, several adjunct faculty, and many teaching assistants and local clinicians who facilitate student learning. Our work is also supported by a stellar group of administrative professionals who keep our operations running smoothly. Since March of 2020, our work has happened a bit differently, but as you will hear tonight, we have continued to advance education, research, and service in meaningful ways through our efforts within the school and its individual programs, and through our collaborations with our colleagues in other parts of the Faculty of Health Sciences, the broader university, and our partners in the community. We're going to start this evening with a talk by Dean Jane Philpott, who will share with you some of the exciting work we have been doing to set our priorities for the next 5 years at the Queen's Faculty of Health Sciences. Following Dean Philpott's presentation, I will provide a State of the School address to share with you some of the highlights of our work over the past 12 months. This will be followed by the Distinguished Alumni Awards celebration, where we will celebrate the achievements of 3 alumni who have made exceptional contributions to their professions and their communities. If we have time before we close off the evening, Dean Philpott and I will answer questions that you may have about the work of the school or the faculty. Throughout our time together, I invite you to use the question and answer function available on the right side of your screen to share your questions, and to use the chat function to share comments about our activities and your congratulations with the award winners. I would now like to introduce Dr. Jane Philpott, the Dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences. Welcome, Jane.
Hello, Marcia. Thank you so much for the welcome. And thank you to everyone who has joined us this evening for the Distinguished Service Awards in the School of Rehabilitation Therapy and for Homecoming 2021. It's really terrific that you have been able to be here, and I look forward to celebrating in particular the distinguished alumni. I am going to give you a bit of a presentation, as Marcia suggested, about some of the work that we've been doing over the last 6 or 8 months as we plan for the future in the Faculty of Health Sciences. It's been my privilege for almost a year and a half now to be the Dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences, which, as you know, hosts the School of Rehabilitation Therapy, the School of Nursing, and the School of Medicine. And we've worked together across all of those schools to talk to a very large number of people about what their dreams and goals for the future are. Some of you may have heard a bit of this before, but I hope that you're not tired of hearing about it. It's a very exciting plan for the years ahead. On the next slide, I wanted to highlight for you just how much work has been done on this. This was not a strategic plan that was dreamed up on the desktop of the dean and the vice dean together. We talked to people across the spectrum. We talked to faculty, staff, and students, to community members, to partners across the town and across the region to find out what their hopes are for what Queen's Health Sciences can do in the future. We did some of that through asking questions, through focus groups, and through very intensive strategic hives that went on for 2 or 3 hours at a time. In total, we talked to more than 1,000 people, and here's where we landed. First of all, I wanted to say that we have undertaken an effort now to rebrand ourselves, and you'll see us talking not necessarily about the Faculty of Health Sciences, nor even the separate schools so much, but recognizing that we are Queen's Health Sciences. Yes, we do have 3 schools for which we are very proud, but in fact, the real strength of our faculty is the fact that we work together. We're not just any Faculty of Health Sciences. We are QHS, Queen's Health Sciences, and we are talking in this way to recognize the fact that radical collaboration is our theme, the idea of working together in a way that has almost never been done before, and I'll tell you more about that on the next slide. We landed on 5 specific priorities that we want to be emphasizing over the next 5 years. They won't necessarily come as a big surprise to you, but the nuance is really important. And so I wanted to go through each of them very briefly with you now. Of course, research will always be a priority in an academic faculty like ours, but where we believe that we have a strategic advantage or a competitive edge over other places is the wonderful value of being a relatively small faculty where people are close together in close proximity and where we do work together across the disciplines. And so our research advantage is that interdisciplinarity that happens here at Queen's Health Sciences. In the world of education, here's where it starts to get really radical. And we are hoping to do more than any other faculty in the country has done around integrating health sciences education. Now, some of you will say, oh, we've been talking about interprofessional education for decades, but there are really very few examples in Canada or beyond Canada of any school that has actually done more than nominal amounts of interprofessional education. We've actually set very high targets for ourselves and hoping that we can, in certain courses that are most appropriate, actually be able to share courses. When you look at, for example, the OT and PT programs that Marcia referred to earlier, why aren't we teaching some of those courses alongside the MD program? Also, students that are coming in with an undergrad degree and ready to be able to learn some of the same kind of content, whether it be around some of the competencies in professionalism for health professionals, or whether it be topics like the decolonization of medicine and healthcare, or topics like anti-racism and cultural safety and human rights. So we really look forward to showing you over the next few years what that really looks like in practice. The third pillar is a really important one in the world of rehabilitation therapy, and it's about the clinical impact that we want to have. Of course, clinical service has always been part of what we do, and recognizing that there should be a clinical impact to our work, but we want to very intentionally look at what communities need, what communities are asking for, and measuring the kind of impact that our academic health sciences work has on communities. Fourthly, we have a very intentional commitment to some of the most important principles in the health sciences world, those being equity, diversity, inclusion, indigeneity, and you'll be happy to see accessibility as a high priority for us. And finally, we want to ensure that it is a priority that we focus on the well-being of our people and our teams, that we make sure that people are thriving, particularly in this pandemic and post-pandemic world, and that we encourage the availability of a nurturing culture, a place where people can live and work and learn together in a safe and inclusive environment. On the next slide, you'll see some of the very practical things, the actions that we intend to take that will feed into that radical collaboration, that will feed into those priorities. We've chosen a half a dozen early actions that we've already taken some steps on and are going to be focusing on across the faculty over the next few years. And then you'll see the portion at the bottom of the slide that talks about adding your action. And here's where we hope to see schools, departments, research groups, and others starting to say that there's loads of room for creativity and innovation here for people to say, here's a project that I want to do, and I see that it feeds into those strategic priorities. But some really exciting things here in the faculty-wide initiatives, things like a focus on research superclusters, an ambitious sounding word that speaks to the fact that we do have some real research strengths around a number of specific themes, and we want to make sure that we have the infrastructure and supports in place for each of those research superclusters to be successful. You'll see also here the work that I've talked about around sharing curricula across a range of programs, deepening partnerships with places where we already have academic and clinical partnerships, but finding out how we can do more, how we can make sure that all of the schools and all of the programs are involved in our partnerships with places like Lakeridge Health, for example, or the Winnebago Area Health Authority based in Moose Factory on the James Bay coast. We've also made a commitment to work in some very specific areas like Indigenous health, global and population health, where the School of Rehabilitation Therapy already has enormous strengths and much more room to build on those. And finally, you'll see something that I hope you'll be very excited about, and I'll tell you a bit more about it in a few minutes. But we have made a commitment to work towards the building of a new facility for us, a new building for Queen's Health Sciences. I wanted to make sure you saw on the next slide that we've set some very specific expectations of how we'll know if we've been successful. We don't have a long list here, but we wanted to make sure that there are some very serious commitments as to where we want to be 5 years from now. And they're ambitious. In the research area, we're hoping to be able to increase by 50% the amount of sponsored research that we do, supported by granting councils, for instance, and other partners. We're also making sure that we drive that commitment to equity, diversity, inclusion to the point that we want to be able to have a faculty, staff, and student population that matches that of the general population. Again, you're going to see here our commitment to the growth of curriculum that is truly, deeply interdisciplinary, particularly in our clinical programs. You also will see on this slide a commitment around some of the major partnership growth, and also the work that we are going to do to ensure that our spaces and our programs are accessible and inclusive for everyone. I want to dig into just a few of those for another couple of minutes as we go forward and talk a little bit about them in further detail. On the next slide, you will see an example of the kind of programs that we hope to do. This is one of the examples of the kind of interdisciplinary work that is happening. And the School of Rehabilitation Therapy, as you know, has really led the way in some very important innovations around the ways that we do our curriculum and drive the learning opportunities for students, but make sure that we're also meeting the needs of priority populations. And here's some areas where we think that there are great opportunities as well for delivering those clinical teaching sessions in an interdisciplinary way, not just once or twice a year, but actually running entire courses across the health professions. On the next slide, you will see the work that we've been doing around equity, diversity, and inclusion. This has been a huge priority for us over the last year, and despite the pandemic making everything more challenging, we've had an enormous number of people who have been working on a number of initiatives, everything from looking at what our admissions policies should be like, to looking at how we can do better recruitment and retention of people from underrepresented populations, to looking at what the culture is like in our faculty and how we can make sure that people do feel welcome and do feel like they belong. We brought all of that work together just 2 weeks ago when we had a 2-day conference on equity, diversity, and inclusion. And our 7 different working groups that have been doing a very significant environmental scan and a series of recommendations came back to report. It was a very inspiring conference, particularly the students who were involved in doing some really superb leadership in this area. And finally, I wanted to just give you a little bit more of a glimpse of one of our most exciting projects, and that is the fact that we are going to have new spaces. Those of you who have been around the School of Rehabilitation Therapy in recent years will know that we've had challenges in this area, that in fact, the facilities that have been available to the school have not necessarily been able to keep pace with the growth of the school, and there are great needs to be able to expand the facilities that we have. Well, as you might imagine, we're undertaking this project in the same kind of approach of radical collaboration. And instead of a dream to build simply a School of Rehabilitation Therapy building on its own, we've actually decided to work together so that the School of Nursing, which is also in need of a new facility, will be able to be housed in the same beautiful new building as the School of Rehabilitation Therapy. And we hope that it will also be home as well to some of the needs for research and some of our research groups that are in great need of expanding. So we've made a commitment that it is our dream and goal and ambition that in 5 years' time, we want to be able to open a brand new building. So I'm telling you about that now because I know how important it is to the folks in rehabilitation therapy. And this is a really terrific opportunity for us. And Marcia and I have talked a lot about this, but actually trying to be the Faculty of Health Sciences that is the most inclusive and accessible it can possibly be. And that includes, of course, taking down physical barriers and making sure that buildings are physically accessible in every possible way. But what are our programs like? What is it like to apply to our programs, to be admitted to our programs, to deliver the teaching and to deliver the assessment materials as well in a way that allows everyone to be involved and to be able to have equal access to those programs and those spaces. So stay tuned on that. We hope that some of our alumni will be involved. It's going to require a lot of work in the planning and, of course, lots of additional resources that we're going to have to recruit. So we'll be happy to tell you more about that in the future, but we really look forward to what the future does hold for us all together at Queen's Health Sciences, where radical collaboration is going to help build a healthier world. Thank you, and I'll pass it back over to Marcia.
Thank you, Jane, very much. And we're going to move on now to a state of the school, and you can see how all of this fits together. So as you can see from Jane's talk, Queen's Faculty of Health Sciences is on an inspiring path forward. The School of Rehabilitation Therapy is committed to this plan and is looking forward to collaborating in radical ways with our colleagues throughout the faculty. Tonight, I want to share with you just a few of our activities over the past year to demonstrate how we are advancing knowledge, transforming lives, and inspiring practice locally, nationally, and internationally, and how we are poised to engage in radical collaboration with our peers here. I want to first begin by recognizing all of you, our alumni. To date, almost 5,000 people have graduated from the School of Rehabilitation Therapy over its 54-year history. I know some of the class of 1970 is joining us tonight, so glad to have you with us. Together, you are all a force to be reckoned with. You are engaged in activities near and far and are positively influencing the lives of many people and communities. Since launching the Distinguished Alumni Awards in 2013, we have recognized 26 alumni for their special contributions. I invite you to review our website at some point so you can read about these special peers and their accomplishments. 18 months ago, we pulled students out of classes and placements and quickly pivoted to offer courses online to the extent possible. We were able to get students back into placements by August 2020. They were back on campus for clinical teaching sessions by September 2020. It was a challenging time. We reorganized courses. We reorganized schedules. We wrote safety protocols. And as you can see from this photo, we marked out teaching pods for small groups of students. We sanitized. We screened. The students followed the rules, and they graduated on time. While COVID created many challenges for teaching, it also generated exceptional creativity on the part of our faculty. As just a few examples, Dr. Edgelow leveraged breakout group features of Zoom to enable occupational therapy students to continue important small group learning related to mental health practice. Dr. Awis conducted progressive interviews with older community volunteers and organized these interviews into living case podcasts for physical therapy students to listen to and discuss in order to apply course concepts. I facilitated regular online doctoral student networking groups to keep their dissertation work moving forward. These are just a few examples of how we have continued to move forward over the past year. This fall, we are back in campus and our programs are full. Across all of our programs, our enrollments are nearly 400, and nearly a quarter of these enrollments are doctoral students. They are conducting important research to build evidence that will inform practice and advance the role of rehabilitation and wellness initiatives in health and social systems around the world. Our occupational therapy and physical therapy programs remain the backbone of our operations, and these programs continue to draw large applicant pools for the seats we have available. Our programs are fully accredited, and we have committed clinical partners who provide critical learning opportunities for our students locally and regionally. For all of you here with us tonight who serve as preceptors for our students, thank you for your time, effort, and commitment. COVID has pushed our fieldwork team to the brink on many occasions over the past year. But once again, they have risen to the challenge. The times have enabled us to move forward on an important initiative that we've been discussing for several years: interprofessional placements using a group model for supervision to provide supportive and collaborative care. What does this mean? Basically, we have designed a new way of doing placements, and we are in the process of launching and evaluating this new model. We have hired therapists to work for us, placed them together in partner sites, and are assigning them groups of 4 to 6 students to supervise simultaneously as they deliver clinical care. Students will work in OT-PT pairs in a collaborative pair model and will be supervised jointly by an occupational therapist and a physical therapist. If successful, this model would be a significant transformation for our placement programs in both disciplines at Queen's and likely beyond. Another big change has been occurring in our PT program. Over the past year, the members of our physical therapy faculty have been working to redesign their curriculum and shift to a competency-based educational model. The work to make this shift is substantial, but they are well on their way. The redesign work is complete, and the approval processes are underway. New course syllabi and materials are being developed, and we are planning to launch the new program next September. Please stay tuned. Exciting things are also happening in our research and post-professional programs as well, with all of them hitting key milestones in 2021. Our Aging and Health PhD program, which launched in 2016, had its very first graduate this year, Dr. Lynn Haslam-Larmer. Our Rehabilitation and Health Leadership program, which launched in 2018, had its first 2 graduates, Dr. Candy Rodabaum and Dr. Karen Shannon. And our 10-year partnership with the MasterCard Foundation and the University of Gondar in Ethiopia had its first PhD graduate from our rehabilitation science program, Dr. Mulugeta Chala. Our research continues to thrive. In 2021, we have brought in $4.4 million so far in research revenues, and we have been working to implement 47 externally funded studies. Of importance to us is 40% of these externally funded studies are funded by tri-council agencies, such as CIHR and the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council. This is fantastic. This is the highest number of tri-council grants in the school for more than 10 years. Currently, the School of Rehabilitation Therapy ranks 4th across the campus in research revenues. As part of advancing our research agenda, this year we awarded our first ever internal research grant, which was made possible by a generous donation by Dr. Sandra Olney, who many of you will know as the former director of the school. When Dr. Olney retired, she started an endowment called the Rehabilitation Therapy Excellence Fund. The expendable portion of this endowment has been slowly growing, and this year we made the decision to use the fund for an interprofessional research competition. We engaged a panel outside the school to review and recommend who would receive the grant. The grant was awarded to Dr. Falashide Fakalade, a PT faculty member, and Dr. Nicole Babette, an OT faculty member. One of the requirements of the application is it had to be an interprofessional application. These two new faculty will pursue a project entitled Co-Creating a Wellness Research Agenda for Caregivers of People with Disabilities. Their collaboration will focus on the wellness of care partners and is guided by the belief that identifying priorities for care partner wellness programs and research should be done collaboratively with care partners. The work will support the development of the Caregiver Wellness Research Collaborative, or CareCo, in the School of Rehabilitation Therapy. The work happening in the school, whether through our educational programs or faculty research, has drawn the attention of local and national news outlets this past year, both in TV and radio. It has been very exciting to see our people recognized for the incredible work that they do and to have the opportunity for them to share their expertise and excitement about their work and discoveries across the country. But we're not sitting on our laurels. We know that we have much work to do, particularly in the area of equity, diversity, inclusion, indigeneity, and accessibility. 17 members of the rehabilitation community, including faculty, staff, and students, have been active participants in the Dean's Action Table on EDI. We've been partnering with colleagues and peers to advance efforts to recruit, admit, retain diverse students, as well as faculty and staff. We've been reviewing and processing our operations, changing policies, procedures, and ways of operating to be more inclusive and accessible. We have a long way to go, but we are committed to change for the better. So I hope that you can see that we have been moving forward on the school's strategic priorities. Our overarching goal is to lead and inspire positive changes that transform the health and well-being of individuals and communities through the integration of research, education, and practice. We have built purposeful partnerships and engaged in participatory leadership to continue our operations. We are working towards greater equity, diversity, and inclusion. We are building partnerships with purpose in order to lead integrated approaches to research, education, and practice. We are capitalizing on our community connections to build mutually beneficial opportunities for all. And we are conducting targeted collaborative research to improve health, well-being, and support transitions across life stages and care systems. I hope you are proud of what we've been doing as one of our alumni. As we move forward with our strategic priorities and with the support of Dean Philpott, it is critical that we continue to celebrate where we have been and the processes that have gotten us this far. The Distinguished Alumni Awards are a symbol of this process. The Webster's Dictionary defines distinguished as marked by excellence. Throughout all of our efforts at the school, we work towards and expect excellence. We admit excellent students. We prepare them to be excellent therapists, scientists, and leaders. And ultimately, we distinguish ourselves through the quality of our graduates. The Distinguished Alumni Awards recognize the achievements of the people who've graduated from the School of Rehabilitation Therapy. Although many factors shape their careers, we hope that their time at Queen's has played some role in their success, and we're proud to have facilitated their journey in some way. Before I announce this year's awardees, I would like to publicly acknowledge Professor Diana Hopkins-Roseal and her husband, John, who I understand are with us tonight. The Distinguished Alumni Awards were made possible because of their vision and generous donation. So we're going to start with the OT award winner, and it gives me great pleasure to announce Dr. Carrie Ann Marshall as the 2021 recipient of the Occupational Therapy Distinguished Alumni Award. Carrie received her master's in occupational therapy in 2009 here at Queen's, and then continued to do a doctorate in rehabilitation science in 2016. After her graduation from her doctorate, Carrie secured a tenure stream position at Western University. Carrie is a principal investigator on a range of studies funded by the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council and the Canadian Institute of Health Research. Her research is aimed at advocating for systems that promote thriving rather than solely tenancy sustainment following homelessness. Carrie is the director of the Social Justice and Mental Health Research Lab at Western University, in which she collaborates with international researchers, trainees, and graduate students on research focused on social inequities experienced by individuals living with mental illness and substance abuse disorders in Canada and beyond. Carrie's dedication to advancing the role of occupational therapy and occupational science in addressing issues of health inequity makes her a worthy recipient of the Occupational Therapy Distinguished Alumni Award. Please welcome Carrie.
Hello, Queen's community, and happy homecoming weekend. I'm so pleased to be given a few minutes to express my gratitude at being nominated and awarded the 2021 Distinguished Alumni Award in Occupational Therapy. You know, Queen's has given me so much over the years, and this is just one more thing, and I'm so very appreciative. I came to Queen's in 2007, and I was attracted to the occupational therapy program because of its focus on social determinants of health and on community development. And these are two things that the Queen's program does particularly well. And those two aspects of the program would go on to kind of influence my research and practice in profound ways. So thank you very much for having this focus in the MSc OT program. After graduating from the OT program, I practiced for 2 years in community mental health, where my passion really lies. And then I loved Queen's so much that I returned to complete my PhD in 2011. There's so many people who have supported my learning, both within the Master's in Occupational Therapy program, but also in the PhD program. This is certainly not an exhaustive list, but there are some people that I really wanted to thank who have really contributed to my development over the years. So the first is Dr. Terry Krupa, who really instilled in me a passion for mental health and the recovery model, and specifically advocating for individuals who are living with mental illness and substance use difficulties, who deserve so much more in society. Dr. Rosemary Lysett, who was my PhD supervisor and has supported the development, my development as a researcher over the course of many years. So thank you, Dr. Lysett. Dr. Margot Patterson, for helping me to recognize the value of interprofessional and collaborative practice, and particularly recognizing that not one profession can solve complex issues, but rather a range of professional groups come together and put their minds together to solve complex issues in healthcare. So thank you for instilling in me that interest and that focus, and also for encouraging me to pursue a PhD in the Rehabilitation Sciences program at Queen's. I've really never looked back. Dr. Catherine Donnelly, for being such an important mentor to me and also many other researchers and practitioners. Thank you for being so giving of your time and for listening and for knowing how to listen. And finally, last but not least, Ms. Anne O'Riordan, for emphasizing the importance of incorporating lived experience in everything we do. I've taken that to heart and absolutely incorporate it in all of my research activities, my teaching, and in my practice as an occupational therapist. So thank you very much for championing the importance of lived experience and for influencing so many of us to do the same. So thank you again for giving me a few minutes to express my gratitude for this award. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of your homecoming weekend.
Thank you, Carrie. Now we will move on to our next award and recognize Marcelle McFadden as the 2021 recipient of the Physical Therapy Distinguished Alumni Award. Marcelle received her bachelor's in physical therapy from the School of Rehabilitation Therapy in 1985. For over 30 years, Marcelle has worked as a physical therapist, as a department leader in hospitals in Ontario and San Diego, California, and as an accreditation expert assessing international health facilities and Canadian health professional training programs. Effective next week, Marcelle will be the new executive director for the Transplantation Society, which is an international organization dedicated to scientific advancement, knowledge, and improving quality, access, and ethical practice in organ transplantation. As a PT alumnus, Marcelle has distinguished herself at home and abroad and has made a significant difference to the well-being of others. Marcelle's impact on individual and global health make her a worthy recipient of the Physical Therapy Distinguished Alumni Award. Please welcome Marcelle.
Awards Committee, fellow alumni, and cherished friends, I'm grateful for this honor. As my friend Heather Binkley, OT85, noted, when we start our journey at Queen's, it's hard to fully imagine where it will lead. I can certainly relate to that statement. While I practiced physiotherapy as a clinician for 5 years after graduating in 1985, the next 30 were definitely unpredictable, up to and including a transition that has begun in the last month. Included in my journey was completing an MHA and working as a physiotherapy team leader at a number of hospitals in both Ontario and in San Diego, California. My California adventure also included time off to enjoy the beach with 3 young children and later working for a pharmaceutical company. Upon returning to Canada, I learned of a unique charity, Health Partners International of Canada, HPIC, that works with pharmaceutical companies, medical mission teams, and other aid organizations to respond to emergencies and improve care in vulnerable communities around the world. I joined the organization at the time of the Indian Ocean tsunami to help send medicines to Sri Lanka. This international perspective eventually found me working at Accreditation Canada in its fledgling international division, assessing and working to improve quality of care in hospitals, clinics, and health systems around the world. This accreditation experience led me to a stint with the Canadian Medical Association, assessing training programs for 15 different allied health professional training programs at colleges and universities across Canada. I was also able to apply these skills as a volunteer surveyor, assessing physiotherapy training programs across Canada. However, my interest in international work continued, such that I returned to HPIC, most recently serving as its president and CEO as it celebrated its 31st year of working with partners to deliver more than $20 million of medicines from Canada to more than 40 countries annually, as well as execute development projects that improve healthcare systems, impacting the lives of 1 million people per year. I do thank Dean Philpott for kindly presenting her experiences and perspectives on global health as part of our recent gala. And just when we think the path is set, if we have an adventurous spirit, we're often surprised to find that new opportunities arise. After this homecoming weekend, I will be focusing on organ transplantation around the world as the executive director of the Transplantation Society, an organization dedicated to scientific advancement, information sharing, and improving quality access and ethical practice in organ transplantation. It seems like the journey has come full circle from my days working as a cardiorespiratory physical therapist with heart transplant patients. No part of our story is ever wasted. So while most of my Queen's classmates are planning for retirement, I have no such ambitions just yet. I serve on the board of directors of an inner city organization dedicated to eradicating homelessness, Welcome Hall Mission, and on my neighborhood community nursing organization, Nova Hudson. COVID has brought to light that we are all connected by health. And while we each work with our own challenges, I firmly believe we need to be simultaneously helping others. And I encourage each of you, no matter where you are in the journey, to consider how you can support your favorite charity. If you need ideas, let me know. Again, I thank you for this honor. I thank Queens for starting me on an exciting and fulfilling journey, and for allowing me to share my passions with all of you. My sincere thanks and wishes for a bon voyage wherever your journey takes you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcel. Our final award recognizes a person who graduated from the School of Rehabilitation Therapy with both a master's in rehabilitation science in 2000 and a doctorate of rehabilitation science in 2006. Please join me in congratulating Professor Alice Aiken, the 2021 recipient of the Rehabilitation Science Distinguished Alumni Award. Alice is currently the Vice President, Research and Innovation at Dalhousie University in Halifax, Canada. She is also currently serving as the Vice Chair of the Governing Council of the Canadian Institutes of Health Research and chairs the Board of Research Nova Scotia. She is an elected member of the College of New Scholars, Artists, and Scientists of the Royal Society of Canada. Alice started her academic career at Queen's University, where she founded and was the first scientific director of the Canadian Institute of Military and Veteran Health Research. Alice proudly served the Canadian Armed Forces for 14 years. She is currently the Honorary Captain, Navy, for the Canadian Forces Health Services Atlantic, and a Dam for the Order of St. George. Alice's inspirational commitment to the health and well-being of military personnel, veterans, and their families make her a worthy recipient of the Rehabilitation Science Distinguished Alumni Award. Please welcome Alice.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for this incredible honor. I'd like to thank the School of Rehabilitation Therapy, the Faculty of Health Sciences, and Queen's University, and in particular, my friend and colleague Diana Hopkins-Rasile for starting this award. You know, Queen's was so supportive to me. When I was working there running the physio clinic in the school, Elsie Cullum, a friend and mentor, helped me to do my grad studies part-time and partially full-time while I was running the clinic. And that made all the difference to me as a mature student. In terms of academically, in my master's, I have to thank Kathleen Norman and Diane Grohl, without whom I would not have completed that degree. And for my PhD, I want to thank my supervisor, Marianne McCall, a true mentor and friend, and made the whole PhD experience so pleasurable. When starting the Canadian Institute for Military and Veteran Health Research, or CIMVR, it was this sort of wild idea that we could bring together the universities across Canada around supporting military and veteran health through research. And Richard Resnick, our dean at the time, and Stephen Liss, our VPR at the time, were incredibly supportive of that. To date, with 42 Canadian university partners, 11 international partners, the largest conference of its kind in the world, and one of the most impactful journals, all of which we did at Queen's, has made a difference to the lives of military veterans and their families. This impact is enormous. I'm so proud to continue this research today. I still have PhD students here working on this topic. I'm still researching with teams that I started working with at Queen's, and I am a CIMVR Fellow and very supportive of the ongoing work of the institution. I'd like to give a particular shout out to Heidi Cram, who started the entire area of family-based research in Canada, and Dave Pedler, who has taken up the mantle of Scientific Director of CIMVR and continues the amazing work to this day. Thank you all so much for this extraordinary recognition. I'm truly grateful.
So to wrap up our evening, I would like to thank everyone for joining the celebration of Queen's, the School of Rehabilitation Therapy, and our 2021 Distinguished Alumni. Congratulations to Carrie, Marcel, and Alice for their contributions to advancing knowledge, inspiring practice, and transforming lives. I wish all of you health and best wishes for the remainder of 2021 and beyond. Please follow the school on Facebook and Twitter, and check out our blog on the school's website to learn about new initiatives and studies. We hope that you will stay engaged with us and promote our work to decision makers, funders, and prospective donors. We are always working to strengthen awareness of our work so we can ensure the ongoing success of the school, its graduates, and the communities we serve. And we want to be part of the radical collaboration of Queen's Health Sciences. I hope you will join us in that quest. I look forward to being able to celebrate future homecoming events with all of you in person in 3D, and encourage each of you to consider a distinguished alumni you know from the School of Rehabilitation Therapy. Nominate them for this special award and help us celebrate the success of our peers. Best wishes, everyone, and good night.